Okay, so let us just try to um, see what we learned yesterday and then get started with today's concepts. So today we'll learn about error handling and then we'll also learn about scraping in websites. So this is an interesting thing. So to revise yesterday, we looked at various um, things. One is like how to install a package, what are modules. So all these .py files are can be used as modules. And we also learned about this particular construct. If name is equal to main and things like that. And also we try to understand what name means when you call this module or invoke this module directly. And when you actually call this on in a different file using import, you can import any modules, right? And then we also looked at how to download the modules from internet, which is pip. It is just like installing a new software or a new library, but they're Python libraries. So that is one thing. And then, yeah, we also looked at what was that? Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. Today we will, yeah, we looked at like how to design and all these things. So, okay. So yeah, so this is your Copilot, and most of the time you should get rid of writing code with your hands, and you should be asking what to generate, but you should have a mental picture. So that's the overall idea of doing anything. Okay. So we will learn about error handling, which is we can call it as exception handling. Exceptions. I will talk about exceptions today. So what are exceptions in Python and what are exceptions in general? And then what does that mean in Python? And then we'll start scripting the website. So I'll pick up the pen. So in any given program, so we will go back to basics where you have a program on a disk, like hard disk. Uh, and then you have RAM. Let me make it longer. And then you have your CPU. So how do programs work? We looked at that in brief in our first class. So you write a program, say some news.py. This is a Python file. Uh, we can call it as a module. And then we also learned about functions yesterday. So how does a function get called, right? So when you write any program, so the compiler makes note of the references, and then when it gets called, it goes to the reference and start executing the program or the instructions which are under that particular function, and then it exits out of the function because any function in any language has this construct: function name, parameters, and then instructions, and then there is a return value. Okay, and you can create as many functions as you want. And for example, this is your main function. So which is like the entry point of your program, entry point. And within that, you can have many functions which are getting called. Say, for example, function A, and then function B is getting called soon after that. And for maybe there is an if condition. If something happens, call something else, maybe C, and this can go on like whatever. Okay. And then this can call inside E and F. Okay. So let's see. Um, D, D is already okay. You can, yeah, it can be repeated. Okay. Then L, something like this. So this is what we call as branching. So function can branch out based on the conditions, just like if else conditions we have, right? So based on the if else conditions, you can also call functions. So this can be like any number of levels. Okay. So for example, I call a function from here. The program starts executing. So it goes here. Probably it goes here and comes here and start executing this path. So when we do this, what happens inside RAM is, so in CPU, there is something called as instruction pointer. So just it's just like what should I read next? What line of code I should be executing in terms of machine level code. Okay. So it points to the that particular memory address. So it picks up that particular instruction. So when you have functions, how functions work is, so any given program in a given operating system has some structure, because operating system needs to know how to execute the program. So any program will have beginning of the beginning bytes or beginning section, and it has stack section, it has dynamic memory section, and then there are more sections to keep variables, static variables, and then like global variables and all these things. So BSS, and you don't have to like understand completely. Just remember that these are for like global variables, strings, and things like that. So the main thing is your stack and dynamic memory. So how does this work? When you start a program is when you call the main function or the beginning of the entry point, this code gets called. And then when you call a function, so on RAM, what happens is, because you are not going to load entire function um, into the like section of instruction, this memory, right? So it will have its own, when the program is loaded, it will have your code section. So within this, you have code section. So within this code section, it keeps on executing here. So when it encounters a function, so what it does is, let us consider that this part is stack. So when we double click on a program, just like Zoom or any program that you double click, it becomes a process. So that is where you can go to Task Manager and see the process. And you can also see how much CPUs it is consuming, how much memory it is consuming. So when it comes to memory, which is nothing but the amount of RAM that you are consuming, in simple words. So, excuse me. So every program, every task that you see, in Linux, you can do PS and see a list of all the functions, just like Task Manager. And there is also a command called top. You can see what are the process and how much it is consuming. So in the stack, when you call this function, if you want to retrace this, so what it does is it puts main here, and then this main has its own code, right? So beginning, the function beginning, and then it has some instructions, and then it has a return value. So within this path, right, it can have many functions, just like here, main A, B, C, and so on. So how it works is, so after main, it calls A, and then it goes here, B, and so on. So this is when you do function call, it keeps on stacking. Why it keeps on stacking is it has not completed this main, right? So because when you call main, there could be instructions, say line number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe in line number 3 and 4, you are calling A, and you're doing something else here. Maybe you're calling a function or something like that. So, and then so on. So when you call a function at line number 3, 4 is not executed because you have to finish this line number 3, right? So in this line number 3, there is A. So it jumps onto the function, and similar thing can happen to this function as well. So it can have multiple lines of instruction and then the return value. So you have not hit the return value. So that is why you need to keep track of like what's happening. So it's like you can think of some game where you keep track of what's happening, probably like a chess, like you move something and then um, you know how did you reach at at that moment. So and you can backtrace it. So in order to backtrace in computers, best way to do is using stacks. So this is one of the data structures, but yeah, stack is what is used to do this. And then it keeps on growing. So when does this stack, or when do you remove this function references is once this last function, which is E, hits a return value, A, B, C, D, E here, we pop this out because now we don't require that function, it is done. So this process of you know putting the function and exiting this, so adding is like adding it to the stack, and removing it is called as stack unwinding. Okay. So one by one, you are just unwinding it during the normal course of the program. That which means there is no error and things like that. So D also hits return value. It executes all the instructions, and then you come to B, A, and finally the main program is exited. So when it gets exited, so that is where your function, if it has like finally it will have a return value, right? Even if you have not specified, there is a default return value in Python. So once it exits, so the process gets exited. That means in the task manager, you won't be able to see that program anywhere. So it's operating system's job to load the program, to run this, and then clean up the process. So this is called as stack unwinding. So let me just clear the drawings. So why are we studying this is, I'll just show you an example. Exit this writing. So if you remember yesterday, we wrote a few functions here, right? Collect data and so on. So this was like, we wrote it in one single script. So, and then we modularized it using this agent, or using this Copilot. So you can see that now here we are calling the main, and then main calls this. So when you call this, imagine that this is getting onto the stack, and this is not getting onto the stack yet, because once you go here, it goes here, and then this is also function. So it goes, input goes onto the next top of the stack, and then there is int, so that goes onto the stack. So when int finishes its job, so int is also an inbuilt function which can convert other data types into integer. Excuse me. So once this finishes its job, so you can also call functions like this. It's like you can embed functions inside function, and then you can call it like this as well. So, or else you have to like take the return value and then call the function. So both are like exactly the same in terms of execution. So Now imagine that we are here, display collect data, and here, let me collect data. Okay. Let me do something here. I'm introducing some error. Say age is equal to 0.34 divided by, sorry, 43 divided by something like this. Okay. So we all know that any number that is divided by 0, it is undefined. So it's not infinite, it's not undefined, because there is no use case to satisfy this sort of operation. Okay, so this is an error even for humans. So how does computers handle this? How it is programmed to handle this is called as, there is a divide by 0 exception, or divide by 0 interrupt, or something like that. So divide by 0 is like CPU knows that it cannot handle and it throws some error. Okay, so let us try to execute this program. Now it is asking for inputs. I'll just put one. Name of the person. Okay. Now let us look at this particular error and try to understand what we learned just now. This. So what is happening here at this moment is you're just invoking this on this terminal. Okay, so this is nothing but a terminal, right? So when you open, so other ways of invoking is to like double click using the mouse. So operating system knows that if something of that event, it loads this into the memory. Okay, so calling the function, calling this function, sorry, a module, and then it has functions inside that, and within your task manager, this is loaded loops.py, and then it has its own instructions and it is getting into the RAM. So now it is executing. CPU is looking at each instruction and it is doing this part. So what happens when it reaches that? So there is like, I think 43 by 0, something like that. So this part of line here is, it says I can't proceed because there is 0 division error, and because of this, it sort of the it it is now it does not know, or how to handle this, or um, it it knows that, okay, if I encounter this problem, I have to just exit out of the program, and then operating system will take care of releasing this process. So it's like unwanted or unexpected way of terminating a process. So normal way of terminating is your program gets executed, nothing, no problems, and then it exits, which is good. This is unexpected way. Okay, so you can see that in Python, so it happens. You can do this in C, C++, or other languages as well. It is called as core dump. So you can dump the, while compiling, you need to say that, okay, put this in debug mode so that you can print this function names, and you can also keep track of the function calls and dump the file. Okay, so if you're coming from C, C++ background, so this is nothing but a core dump, but this is in a much more um, well-structured way. Okay, so we failed at this moment, and you can see that it tells the line number here, line number 14, in collect data. This is one of our function, which is nothing but in line number 7 here. right? And then within that collect data, how did we reach at this moment is from main and then this function. And within this function, we reached here. So if you have to write a stack trace, we put this function onto the stack, which is in the RAM. And then we put this collect data function. And then while this was executing, there was a problem. So operating system killed this program and we stopped it abruptly. And then, so in order to clean up, it does what we called as stack unwinding. So this is why it is called as here trace back. Okay. So this terminology comes from the stack. So it is unwinding the stack, and you can actually trace back to the beginning. So that is why it is called as trace back. So whenever you see this sort of error, or is this sort of structure in your program or in the log file element, that means the program has got some problem and it has stopped abruptly. There could be like several errors. We'll look at that. So this is one of the errors. Okay. So yeah. Now I think you understood the basic nature of how the programs or the function gets called. So this is called as stack unwinding, right? So what are the other errors or what are the other exceptions? Okay. So I'm going to just ask GPT. So list of exceptions in Python. Okay. And example snippets. Okay. Now it will be easy for you to read. There it is. This is install. Okay. So let me drag it a little bit here. So there are like several exceptions. So this is something which we saw, and how to handle any such error is keeping this construct, which is called as try except block. So in C++, in C, we do not have this. In C++, I think it's try catch or something like that. Even in Java, they have similar thing. So what does this construct do is basically, I'll just put this construct. Okay, I'll come back here. Okay. Right. Since it is now it has recognized what I'm trying to do already. Okay. We'll come to this finally and other keywords, but let us look at this. Let me execute the program once again and let's print a line here so that you can recognize the place. Just a marker too. And I'm going to execute this. Python 3, what was this? The function with news. Where did we put it? Main loops, is it? Loops here, yeah. So now it has started executing. So let me this and how it will data I want and some. So now you can see that we don't see that traceback anymore. Okay. So what it has done is it has gracefully handled that particular exception, okay, which is zero division error. And this is happening because of this particular construct, try exit block. So how to use it, when to use it, is because is at the place where you do the low level design. Yesterday we were talking about high level design and low level design, right? So during low level design, you will in your flow, you know what is the sort of data that you're getting, and what is the program flow, because you have already defined the program flow. And then you expect or you imagine that something could be wrong here. You suspect that area, and then you can put entire block of that code into the try except block. In fact, you can put this try except block to entire function. You can put here, you can put in the main function, and so on. So depending on where you need it, the basic rule is put at the place where uh, you can make it like too generic. For example, if I try to put this at this place and indent these lines separately, you can actually indent this. So if you put this, what happens is there is too much code here, and when you see the error, or when you see the log files, or when you see the prints, it's difficult, or it takes some more time to like where which line of the code is causing this particular error. Okay. Uh, so it is better to find out like specific lines of codes or few lines, and then put this try block. Okay. So that is how you handle the exceptions. So there are different constructs, like one more construct, like there is finally, and so on. So, and it is possible that in this particular um, lines of code, you can have multiple errors, say uh, list of numbers, something like this, and list of numbers. And then I will probably, yeah, you can see that there is one more error here within this block. I'll try to execute the program and let's see what happens. So there is zero division error. It encountered this and then it looked here. Okay, let me put this just below here so that we look at this error. Okay, one thing. Okay, now you can see that even if you have this block, you still get this error. Why did we get this error? Because we are handling a specific exception here, which is zero division by hand, zero division error, divide by zero. And then when it encounters this particular line number 16, you're trying to access uh, 10th element, or I think it's 11th element, but yeah, using 10 because we start from zero, right? 11th element. And then, but here in the list of numbers, you only have 5 elements. So this is called as index error, because these are called as indexes 0, 1, 2, 3, and you can access these elements, right? We saw in data types. And then there is nothing in 10, and it does not know to fetch an element in 10th place or 11th place to be specific. So it raised this. So you can have multiple exceptions here. And then you can have a generic exception. And it is auto suggesting, so I'm just accepting. Okay. So if I execute it again, so this, okay, you can see that we handle some exceptions here with various different errors. So we suspect that, okay, this could go wrong. If this goes wrong, go to this index error, because that is what we get out of this. And if something happens here, you go to this. And there is also an common exception which handles all the exceptions. So these are specific exceptions. So you can also remove all this specific exceptions, and you can still run the program, and there's a difference. I'll show you the difference. Okay. So you can see that I entered 33 here, name of a person. Sorry, DD in the DD in the like name of the, sorry, enter the age of the person. So excuse me. So it is trying to convert that string. So anything that you get out of input is a string, and then you need to convert it to like whatever the data type you want. So in this case, we want it to be an age. So that is why we are converting it into integer. So we are passing dd, which is a string, and when you try to convert it into integer, it does not know how to pass dd because it does not contain any number. So it has come up with value error. So this is one of the error. So there are like several errors. This is one of the errors, but we um, simulated it by coincidence. But yeah, this is one of the errors. So I'll just enter the name of a person, enter the age. Okay. Now you can see that this particular line is printed. So if you look at here, so any exception that comes here, so this is like a large bucket. So it will just catch all the errors that this part throws. So why we should avoid using this always for all the cases is because you won't come to know like what exactly has gone wrong and in the which line of and which part of the code. So the general rule is if you expect any errors, put it in a way that first you handle specific errors, and if you still suspect something can go wrong, you put a generic exception. So this is called as a generic exception. These are specific exceptions. Okay. So there are like a lot of exceptions. Like we saw zero division error, and there is value error, and there is type error, which is nothing but we are trying to convert one thing to another, and we are trying to add 5 plus some string, so on. Index error, file not found error, like you're trying to read a file, and then that file doesn't exist. So that is one of the errors. So there are several errors, but yeah, you don't have to remember everything. So just remember that there is an umbrella of errors, exceptions. So under this exception, there are several exceptions under this. Okay? So you can also go to Google and search like exception tree and various exceptions. So it will give you exceptions. So this is about exceptions and how to handle the exceptions. And there is a keyword called as finally. So this is to sort of clean up, or this part will anyways execute regardless of you get an exception or not. So yeah, yeah, this is an optional thing to put, but these exceptions. So when you have try, it should follow by except. So this is an option. Okay, so you don't have to like remember the construct. So if you suspect anything, you can simply like go to that place and say I have selected this, right? Go to this your AI tool and say handle this uh, line of code with right exceptions. Okay, so I'll just enter. Let's see what happens. You can see that we are in agent mode here, and then it has modified the code. Since we are in agent mode, it modifies the code directly. And now you can look at this code and you can accept, or you can also, like, you can keep the code, or you can undo the changes as well. So yeah, we handled this sort of exception, which is value. So it sort of knows, because it's an AI, so it knows what sort of exceptions could come out of this, and it has gracefully handled this. So just do this sort of exercise where you think, you write some code, you generate some code, and uh, you ask GPT to, like, this, I suspect some problem in this part of the code. Can you add exceptions? So this will help you to run the program smoothly. Even if there is an error, you have some condition to, like, handle that and then move on to the next set of code. So your stack unwinding happens easily, like, in an expected way. It does not, operating system does not kill the process and then unwinds the stack by itself, generating a trace back. Okay, so yeah, that is about exceptions. So now, okay, let us get back to our project. One of the aims of our project was to fetch news from uh, some news source. Okay, so do I have a place called news? Okay, okay, let us get back to this program. So yesterday we learned about request library. Request library is a library which can execute HTTP requests on a given URL. Okay, and then you have status code. You have text which you fetch it and so on. You can look at this later. So I'm going to ask GPT to let me ask in agent mode. I want to. It is called web scraping. Okay, scrape. I want to scrape news from say um, Times of India. Uh, News, let me just be specific. News headlines from Times of India. I can, let us see if it fetches the URL by itself. And return headlines in a list of say strings, list of strings. Write a function, write a function. Achieve this. So this is an agent mode. So I'll also talk about, like, how to ask and what to ask, what should be your structure. Yeah. So yeah, it is telling this. To script you can use, okay, while to assist. I'll add function to, okay, yeah. So right. So what it is doing is, so now we already have request library, and this is additional libraries like Beautiful Soup and PS4 and things like that. So anything that you see on the web page, right? So it is an HTML content, hypertext markup language. So that is what we saw yesterday. Like, this part of the code, we saw it as HTML. HTML is nothing but this. Yeah, this is HTML. So if you go to any website and then view page source, not even in inspect you will get it, but if you just do weave inspect, so weave source code. So this is what you will see. This is like JSON. This is a structured text, which means that it is like a tree structure. So on the top of the tree it has HTML under that there is head, and that there are some more. These are called as tags. So and then there are attributes and so on. Okay, so this is what is called as HTML. Okay, in order to scrape this, we sent a request yesterday, and then we printed few lines. So that is about a little bit about HTML. Where is the code here? So yeah, so these are the additional libraries. Let us see how the agent works now. You can see that it generated some code. And let us, so whenever you try to read the code, first go to the beginning of the module or beginning of the program execution. So here it is, this part. And then, so this is where we start reading, print fetching headlines, and then you just need to glance. Okay, there is a function which brings out headlines. So let us go to this function, which is here. And okay, there is URL, which is required by response, request library, and you collect that in response variable. And this variable has status code, okay? And then there is beautiful soup. Some code is called here, some function. And there is some parser, which is required to, yeah, in previous bootcamp, I used to take about 1 hour to explain all these things, because right now that necessity is not there. So you just need to understand, like, okay, you sent a request, you fetched something, and something is happening here. So you're getting some output, and then you're trying to find some elements in the HTML text. So that is done by this part of the code, and this is the library that you use. So you don't need to like parse it by yourself, like parse, write, look at this HTML, and then go line by line and see where is the news and fetch it. Okay. So that is done by this Copilot. Okay. So let us see if it really works, because yeah, it's possible that it does not work. So now we know that we haven't installed this particular library. We do not have this. Yesterday we installed this. Let's try to execute this. Oh, it's already there. I think I had installed it a long time back. Okay. So yeah, if it's not there, you have to just do the pip install. Like okay. So yeah. So this is the output that we are getting, fetching the times of India headlines, and then like loop the loop, the main word. I don't know what it is. So let us go to this URL and look at it ourselves. This is like just to verify. Okay, it should be correct, but just for our convenience. So it has picked up. It has not actually picked up the news. It has picked up the I think the section names, for example, sports, astrology, uh, and so on. Okay. So now I know that, okay, this is not working. Okay. So this is very common in you while you are using GPT. That is why you need to like cross check whether it is working or not. So if you look at the code, what it is doing is it is getting the response. It is trying to fetch H2, which is heading 2 of the HTML, and it is doing it. It is like parsing line by line and in a loop, and then it is trying to append it to the list. Okay, but yeah, this just for you glance it, you understand it, but don't get deeper into this because that is not the way we are going to work in future. And you now you can come back to this and say that this is my website. Uh, and I'll ask it more specifically. So this is called as like prompt engineering because now you ask something and you did not, and then we are trying to iterate over what we need specifically, step by step, and we are reaching our goal. So I'm going to use, so this is natural language, right? So it looks like um, I have fetched the uh, what are they called? Section names rather than the news itself. Uh, Look at this page, and then you can. So this is your problem statement, and then you can also say that one of the example headlines is, you can go to the this one and you can say Google has now working something like this. Select this. Allowing me to copy out. I think it has a lot of advertisements. That is why it is finding difficult. Let's Donald Trump to attend Pope Francis, something like that. Let's try this, okay? This something like this. Let's see what it comes up with. And then it also modifies the code. So all these news websites has got a lot of pop-ups, ads, and stuff like that. So okay, keep this. Let us execute it again. Let's see how it works. If it works, it is unable to fetch. Okay, fetch news because it's. I think most probably it's. Yeah, it just happened. Like, and now you have to iterate again, saying, let us try to get one India page and then try to see if it works. So, so what we're trying to do is we are trying to understand what is the problem and then trying to break that problem into smaller problem and then feeding that into the agent or into the GPT. Then I see no headlines in output. Let us try to fetch data from this page. I think I can give some examples. Maybe they have disabled copy, I don't know. Contains review bilateral ties. So whose has content contain word bilateral. What, okay, just let's see how it works. in manage continue fetch untrusted web page. So now it is intelligent enough to say whether its website is authentic or not. Yeah, now it has actually okay. Web page contains headlines. So this headline calls okay. Would you like to? Okay, now it has now we have come from like we found some problem and then we are trying to iterate it. So I gave it some hint and it is able to fetch that particular this one. This is the headline. And then would you like me to update the script to fetch and display such specific headlines? Yes. We'll modify the keyboard headlines. Okay. It is generating the edits and it is applying. So see how fast it is. Let's and it says keep the change done. Okay. So now let us try to execute and see whether it works or not. So you can see that we are not focusing on the like specifics of code. So I think it is looking at specific keyword. Let's see. Okay, it is looking at that particular specific word. So this is not exactly that we want, but you are understanding how GPT is in you know is in play. Okay. So yeah, it has not fetched still. So yeah, you keep iterating this until you get it. So it's like you have yeah. Let's not do this now, but you're getting the point, right? So in order to generate the code, so first you understand what is the structure of the page and things like that, and then if you find this difficult, probably it has some restrictions, or maybe it is not allowing this particular page has more links under it and then things like that. Okay, so probably you need to understand the structure more and then specify that okay, these are the types of the headlines. So since this is like this has pop-ups, ads and things like that, you can actually learn it better using pages which does not have these ads and such things. So Wikipedia, I can go to this Wikipedia. So this does not have any anything, right? So you can actually go to like specify this page and then understand how web scraping works, and then you can come back to like this page. So um, your basic idea is to understand how things are present uh, in the place that you want to fetch the data, and then do it. Okay, so you can actually go here. So let's try to just generate this particular thing. How different it is from this. So web this page wiki uh, create a new file called wiki repository and uh, summarize the page. Continue. Okay. It is fetching the data. So these news websites are a little bit complex because they have like too many hyperlinks and so on. So in order to understand, go to a simple page like this, and then you can do it. And then you come back to news and understand and iterate over so that where is the page? Oh, let's execute this. Yeah. So what it has done is same thing. So it has got an URL, got a response, beautiful soup is a library. It has parsed it, and then it knows how to get into paragraph and fetch one by one, and then return the uh, summary. Okay, so you can see that this particular thing is present here. So this is a excuse me, a simpler page. If you go with the source, it does not have too many hyperlinks. It has a hyperlinks, but it is not as bad as this. So in order to fetch news from these places, probably you have to understand a little bit more. So wherein you can actually use this particular link, and you don't have to like decode by yourself. Put this into ChatGPT or uh, ask it to explain the structure of HTML so that you can parse it level by level. And then you can go back to this.py and ask it to make change. So that is how you can sort of iterate and then fetch things. Okay. So yeah, this Times of India, we could not get what we want, but you can try it by yourself. We can also use some other websites which are like slightly better than Times of India, probably CNN. It does not have like too many pop-ups, ads, and things like that. Probably this is much more simpler than TOI, so you can try that. Okay. So yeah, this is what how the web scraping work, and you can use this to like scrape. In fact, all these GPTs, right? So they have scraped the entire world's web pages, which is in the entire internet, and have fed it into their machine learning, and they have categorized them, and that is the reason that it is working so well. Okay, so yeah, you can you can try that. You can try to scrape CNN. Okay. I think Times of India is like, yeah, it's not very scrape friendly. So do not modify code by yourself. So ask it to, like, for example, if you do not understand this, just go here and ask it to, in ask mode, ask it to explain. So like that code. So now you can see that even though we have a tool to generate code and put things together, it's not so easy, right? Because even if you are using a natural language, you have to understand the underlying structure of what you are doing, and only then you can do things, or else you'll get simply lost, and it's really hard to do. Okay. So now it is explaining, for example, beautiful soup and what is this HTML parser, paragraphs, and so on. Okay. So if you don't understand any part of code, you ask it like this, and then understand, and then just move on. Okay. Don't like get stuck to it, and then just like uh, like the classic way of writing the code, that is gone. So you understand the structure, ask the GPT to generate the code. If some parts, if you do not understand, try to explain it using the GPT, and then move on. So the main idea is you need to have the structure of the program and that low level design in your mind. Unless you have this, you cannot do this at all. So what we miss doing here while parsing the news is because we had high level idea, which is like high level design, but we did not have low level design at all. So low level design is how the website looks like, how do I parse, and things like that. So we did not do that exercise. That is the reason that we are like we are feeling that we are lost and we are not getting the desired output. And if you do not have that low level design, you'll get frustrated and then you know do something else. Okay. So and then you won't be able to achieve your goals. Okay. That's the one of the main intent behind low level design. Okay. Yeah, that's it for today's class. We learned about error handling and web scraping. and you can fetch news like from various sources. If you find hard to fetch from TOI, fetch it from other websites like I think CNN is easier to fetch. And yeah, find out the news channels and we can do this. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for attending, and yeah, try to do some exercises. I have posted some exercises on GitHub, and I'll send you the links, and then try to do this exercise. And also try to do this week. You don't have to do it today. Maybe it will be like too much to consume everything in one shot. But yeah, try to do something that you use agent mode, and then you generate the code, and then you try to ask specific things to reach your goal. Okay, so that should be your exercise. And tomorrow we will learn about prompt engineering, how to ask, how to give the context, and how to give constraints, or how to ask it to like verify bytes. So today we did little bit, but it is not I have not taught you in a structured way. But tomorrow we'll look at that specifically. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, take care and see you tomorrow.